Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Manatee Springs City Council for July the 19th, 2022. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You'll join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Judy, would you please call the roll?
Council members Judith Chandler. Present. Julie Wolf. Here. Natalie Johnson. Here. Nancy Fortune. Present. Michelle Weatherholt. Present. Mayor Pro Tem John Shada. I did get a message he's going to try and come in on the conference phone, but we don't have him quite yet. Mayor John Graham.
Yes, present. And when Mayor Pro Tem Shada joins us, if you'll just make the announcement, let us know.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I
absolutely.
saw that email. So I think
you.
all of council did. Okay, so we'll hope that Mr. Shada joins us here as soon as possible. Okay, council members, you've had a chance to look at the agenda. I would call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Julie, second. Okay, we have a motion a second. Judy, do you want us to vote electronically or just? Okay, great. We'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so now we come to public comment on non-agenda items. So this is a time when anyone in the public can speak about any object, any item that is not on tonight's agenda. We would ask that you take no more than 3 minutes. And when you come up to the microphone, please give us your name and address. It's typical that we do not respond to comments, but if you filled a form out and given it to our city clerk, Judy Morgan, will have contact information so we can reach back to you if necessary. Judy, do we have anyone wishing to speak tonight? Quite a few. Why don't you?
I have three right here.
Well, Judy, you can call them in the order you have them.
Okay, first one I have is Joe Mania.
Yes, yeah, please come forward. And you'll notice there's a button in the center. Now you'll press that. You'll see the green light come on. You need to get about 3 inches or so close to the microphone and speaking. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You sit down, make yourself comfortable. Yes, it should go green. And then you need to have the microphone about 3 inches from your. Okay. This is all being recorded for posterity and for TV land.
Okay, we're ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Well, I want to thank the council for allowing me to speak this evening. And then I've been speaking with members of the staff at the Manatee Springs government, and they've been very helpful to me. The subject that I would like to speak on this evening is, I think, very significant now. It's my understanding that Manatee is in the middle of rewriting its zoning codes, ordinances. I don't know all the things that's going on. But what I would like to talk with you about is, well, first of all, this is my wife, Hope, in back of me. We've lived at 16 Eagle Avenue for the last 23 years. And I just, when I wrote that down, I looked at it and gosh, we were in our 50s when we came here. And so, time goes by very quickly. The one thing that hasn't gone by real quickly is that Manatee has remained Manatee. Okay, it has withstood the change that has taken place in a lot of cities. We love the city a lot. We're very dedicated to it, and Hope volunteers on Fridays down at the visitor center and loves doing that. I don't know if she likes doing that well or just getting away for 3 hours from me. So in any event, we've been here a long time. We've improved and I know I've got 3 minutes. We've improved our home every year for 23 years. We've donated its use to many Pikes Peak institutions. She's got a world-class garden up there. I don't know if you've all have been up to see the garden or not, but it's been on the Colorado Garden Tour. We kind of love it because we sneak up on the Broadmoor people when they come to see Manatee. We have this beautiful garden to show them. It's been our dream home, and it has been that way from the day we moved in 23 years ago. We joked that they're going to have to carry us out feet first. But with recent developments, we're starting to soften on that just a little bit, and we might just consider other ways of taking care. We found out late last year that the house next to us has been sold, and that's fine. It was sold to some investors that specialize in setting up vacation rentals. And they've got a number of vacation rentals, not only here, but in other cities and states. When they came over to announce with a bottle of wine that they were our new neighbors, well, I said, well, I think maybe you're not. You're really just going to be setting up a VRBO. And they said, yes, we are. And I said, well, the city of Manatee has a moratorium on accepting any applications for new VRBOs or vacation rentals until at least October the 22nd, and October 2022, might even be longer than that. But that wasn't entirely true, because they have set up an operating VRBO. It's listed on vrbo.com. And the way that I got around it, I spoke with the first people that they rented to, which was actually a racing team.
Excuse me, Joe, you're at 3 minutes. Could you hit the high points?
Are we at 2 minutes?
We're at 3. We're at 3. Go ahead a little bit.
Okay, I'll go real quick.
Okay, great.
Okay. Anyway, the way they went around it was that they rented the VRBO for the house for over 30 days, which makes it a long-term rental. Okay, and there, as I understand it, there are no requirements for long-term rentals to adhere to any requirements like short-term rentals, quiet hours, adequate parking, waste removal, any of that. None of those things apply. And the young men that I talked to on the racing team said our boss figured out that with the broker, that they could go for 30 days and they don't have to comply with anything. So this turned into a quick nightmare. And I hope you'll indulge me just for maybe one more minute, because they moved in a 20-some foot racing team car trailer and a 15-foot pickup on the front of it. And I'm all for the races, and I really wanted to support them, but they could not back that unit out of that drive next to us without coming all the way across our property. And so I moved our cars and told them I'll move my cars, because I know they invested a lot of money to come here to race and everything, and I didn't want to be a problem to them. So in any event, they did that every day, every morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. They were out moving the car around, all of that. I'll really cut this short because I know I'm using too much time. But the young man that I asked, did you rent it as a VRBO? And he said, yes, but our broker advises to go over 30 days on the rental, and that way we don't have to comply with any of Manatee Springs requirements. What I would like to leave this meeting with is, in the new rewrite of the zoning, I would like for the planning department to include, if they could, a definition of vacation rentals, and to not, because what they did was they got around the short-term rental definition. The long-term rental definition doesn't fit them either, but they established this VRBO by some pretty interesting methods. I'm just afraid that monument will start to degrade little by little. This was not a good experience to see what happened there, but we'll just go from there. So to summarize, I'm requesting that City Council Planning Department address this huge loophole and require that all vacation rental properties must meet them. So they're also within the 500-foot limit on the VRBOs, because there's one right around the corner, about 150 feet from their back fence. So that's where I am. Okay,
very good. Thank you. I noticed you have notes there. Could you provide a copy of those to our city administrator?
What's that? Copy of
the copy of your notes?
Of the notes?
At some point, yeah. It doesn't have to be
today. They're just
okay.
stuff. I just I
Okay.
just threw together. Yeah, I can give you a copy of it.
Whatever, okay, all
Okay.
right.
All
Okay,
right.
very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next
Judy,
speaker is Melody Dougherty.
oh, Melody, Darty, okay, Melody? And Melody, I will ask you to try and keep it to 3 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, great.
Yes,
Hello, Mayor, Council. It's good to see everybody. I'm here on a really light and fun note. I live at 106 Ruxton Avenue. I've been there for over a decade. And I'm coming in the capacity executive director of the Manatee Pollinators to share a really fun gift as a result of the collaboration with the Creative Alliance, Brian Engel, and the Eagle Dancer, Courtney Hensley from Brazen Bee, excuse me, and myself to create the Pollinator Passport. And I was speaking with Roy Cheney today. He hadn't even heard of it. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to come to the mayor and if I may, at the end of my presentation, give each one of you this passport, because it really is a result of trying to find a fun way of incorporating our business community into Pollinator Week awareness, the Pollinator Festival, and also our ongoing efforts to create a certified pollinator district. The business community was our biggest challenge. It's like, how do we do it? And so we brought in just some of our retail business people, and this was the result of it. And we have a sweepstakes game going on. We have over $2,500 worth of donated gift certificates and some products that are absolutely really, really amazing. David Gonzalez, 2 beautiful paintings valued $250 each. Sunspa, some soaps, 2 different soaps. We've got gift certificates from our food industry people, and gift certificates from Salus. This is on that level, and it's been really fun and amazing to go into these businesses and people. Their consistent response is like, yeah, Melody, we support you in the pollinators. Just keep doing it. And so we look forward to this growing. And I just wanted to just let you all know about it. And what you have to do then, excuse me, is register at the chamber with Leslie. Then you go get 12 stamps in your cute little book, and there's all kinds of pollen related information. You return it, and then we put your name into a hat on August 1st on International Friendship Day. And maybe you'll be one of the winners that we draw out of the hat to get some of those really amazing gifts. So that's it, John.
okay, great, thank you very
Great.
much.
Is it all right if I pass out?
Yeah, I
or
see
give-
no objection, yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Melody, yeah. Gold ball.
So, Mayor, so our next requested speaker is Dave Wolverton.
Dave?
Good evening, Council. My name's Dave Wolverton. I live at 213 Pilot Knob. I've lived here for 34 years. I'm here tonight to speak on the record about the Manatee Springs Flood Control Master Plan. I did some research, some of you may know, a while back about flooding here in Manatee, specifically the 2013 flood out of Williams Canyon. And I discovered in the master plan that was done in 2018, this is dated June 20th, 2018. It was done by Bohannon Houston. And I emailed you about this on May 5th, Mr. Mayor, and you didn't respond. So I just want to go on the record and point out on page 7, it says, based on direction from the city, neither Fountain Creek nor Williams Canyon were studied in further detail as various previous studies have provided detailed hydrologic and hydraulic analysis of those 2 drainages. So I did a Cora request to get those documents, and Judy Morgan tells me no such documents exist. So I'm not sure why it's published in this document that they exist or what the direction was from the city, but I think that needs to be rectified. I think my research shows that there's been at least 3 human fatalities from flooding out of Williams Canyon. I think it's a serious issue. None of you responded to a project that I emailed to you several months ago, but like I said, these documents are supposed to exist and they don't. So I think we either need to contract to get those studies done, or at least let the public know that they don't exist, one or the other. Because if you're like me and you read these documents that are posted on the website, you would just assume these documents exist and the studies have been done. And, you just take for granted that there's not an issue, but I'm pretty sure there's serious issues, particularly in the Williams Canyon drainage. So again, I just wanted to go on the record tonight as pointing that out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Ramona Leandro.
Hi, I'm Ramona Leandro. I own Patsy's Candies in Manatee Springs. And we've been having a bit of issues with trash. So we're here to talk about trash.
Excuse me, this is an agenda item, so we can,
This is what?
this is an agenda item. This portion of the
Yes.
meeting is for non-agenda items. Okay,
This is where they told me to come.
But you can talk about it. It's just a little later in the meeting. The trash part is a little later in the meeting.
Oh, because they
And
said
so-
the first 15 minutes.
Oh, no, it's later.
actually, the trash agenda is item I2. That's first reading, so we won't have public hearing on that. But this is an agenda item. So actually, it would probably be in 2 weeks, assuming this passes tonight on first reading, would be at our next regular meeting that we'd entertain public comment. Okay. Yeah, in 2 weeks. Yeah. That assumes it passes on first reading tonight. Okay. Yeah, and in the meantime, you're welcome to email city council or to the city clerk, and she'll, with a request to forward to city council. That's also possible. Okay. Yeah, so you can, okay. So it'll be 2 weeks from tonight, most likely, that we'll have it on second reading. And at that point, we have the public hearing regarding this. In the meantime, you can contact city council or send us emails, or you can contact us through the city clerk.
Well, I guess I was supposed to talk about the fine about the trash. I didn't know there was a whole nother segment about the trash.
It's published in the agenda.
Actually,
Okay.
John, is it a non-agenda item since the agenda item doesn't allow conversation? So maybe it is appropriate for
No,
her to speak.
it's,
About the fine.
yeah.
Fine is in the piece.
the
But
fines and
Mayor,
the fee- okay,
Mayor,
so the
Mayor,
dis-
may I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, just, you are welcome
Oh.
to stay and listen to the discussion on first read. It just, we don't entertain public comment at that time, but you're welcome. We're not chasing you.
So Mayor, there's the fine, I guess, in the fee schedule. It's also on your agenda later tonight.
Right. Right, and that's a resolution. Well, normally we wouldn't do this, I guess. And I prefer to stick with our precedents unless Mr. Parker.
But
you have-
it's really up to you, Mayor.
Okay, all right, we'll discuss it in 2 weeks. Okay, Judy, do we have anyone else?
Well, I guess I need some clarification. So as a resolution, wouldn't you normally take public comment on that agenda item since it's a pass,
we
a one-time
typic-
shot? It won't come back for a second read.
Right,
So resolutions don't require public
Right.
comment. It's up to the city council and the mayor running it.
if she'd like to speak when we come to the resolution item, that would be, because we could do that. She's gone, okay, she's gone, okay. All right, let's
Mayor,
move
in
on.
that respect, that was the last of the
Okay.
public comment,
Okay.
not agendized.
All right, thank you.
cards I had.
Okay, let's move on then. The next item is the consent calendar. We have 5 items. First is approval of the amended city council regular meeting minutes for June the 7th, 2022. Second item, approval of the city council regular meeting minutes, June 28th, 2022. Third, approval of city council special session minutes, July 12th, 2022. Fourth, agreement for street improvements on Uinta Road and via Chula Vista Road. And the last, 5th, presentation of warrants written for June 2022. If, unless someone wants to pull an item off, I would entertain a motion to approve and accept.
Mayor,
Judy?
I'd like to remove F2 for a very minor correction.
Okay, so we'll take F2 off. Do we have a motion to approve and accept the rest of the consent calendar? That would be items 1, 3, 4, and 5. We have a motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Are we?
Oh, sorry, I guess we had the electronics, but I guess that worked. Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss item F2. Judith, you had concerns?
Yeah, it was under a council correspondence. I just wanted to clarify that it said in the minutes that Manatee Springs has become a certified pollinator district, and we have not yet become a certified pollinator district. We are in the process of becoming. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay, thank you. Would you consider making a motion to accept it with that amendment?
Absolutely. I move to accept the minutes with that one correction.
We have a second from Councillor Wolf. All in favor, say aye. Aye. I guess we're voting electronically. Sorry, we'll vote electronically. Sorry.
If we're doing it electronically, it looks like we still have some people that need to push their buttons.
Okay, so.
I'm still not seeing. Thank you. Okay, we got it now. It's been a while since I've seen this. Okay, so
Okay, all right, thank you. So motion passes as amended. Great, thank you. Okay, so next item, we have the first of 2 hearings. This will be a second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1822, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the fiscal year 2022. And we have our finance director, Becca Davis.
Good evening. This amended budget implements the changes decided upon by City Council at the June 12th budget retreat. Nothing has changed since this first reading, which was on June 28th. And the ending 2023 unassigned general fund balance is forecasted to be $3,063,000. Thank you.
Okay, since we've been down this road once before, I think this would be an opportunity for council to ask any questions they'd like of Becca at this point, and then we'll have a public hearing. And we'll bring Becca back for any further questions. So any questions at this point? I guess not. Becca, thank you. Okay. So with that, I will open the public hearing portion of this. So anyone in the public who'd like to comment on this is welcome to do so now. Judy, did anyone show an interest?
yes, it turns out we do have one for Gerard Schulten.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Gary, you have to press the button, the green light comes on, and then try to get within about 3 inches of the mic.
All
Okay?
right. Great. I hope I'm talking about this at the right part of the meeting. I think I am. Just want to thank everyone for hearing me. I'm here to talk about the money that will be going toward the Carnegie Library edition. That will be part of tonight's budget vote. I'm concerned about Manatee taking a fiscally responsible path forward regarding the library edition. Colorado Springs will be voting on whether or not to approve recreational marijuana in their next election, and many are predicting that it will be approved. If it is approved, a large source of our tax income will be greatly diminished. The last budget amount for the Carnegie Library that I heard was around $3.3 million. Today I spoke with someone who attended today's meeting with the architect for the library addition. He was asked what the effect of inflation may be on that previous estimate. He said that he thought the prices had inflated 10% since the last budget estimate. So if the budget was 3.3 million before, it's now $3,630,000. Generally speaking, in regard to building construction, there's a direct relationship between building square footage and cost. So as the size of the building shrinks, the cost of the building shrinks. Our Carnegie Library was closed to the public in 2019 because it lacked proper handicapped access. The present design of the Carnegie Library addition includes design features that provide handicapped access, but that design also provides, there are some aspects of that design that really don't have much to do with handicapped access at all. I estimate that should the library addition be limited to only those design features that provide handicapped access, the addition can be shrunk to around 1/5 the size of the current design. If the addition today is around $3,630,000, 1/5 of that number would be $726,000. I'm here to suggest that council put a condition on the funding of the library addition. This condition would be that the library addition be separated into 2 phases. The first phase would provide a handicapped access that would include an entry to the library at grade, handicapped elevators, handicapped accessible toilet rooms, handicapped drinking fountain, that kind of thing.
Gary, you're about 2.5 minutes, so if you could sum up.
Sure. In the second phase, all the rest of the stuff in the latest design could be included in that. Let's see here.
Gary, we're at 3 minutes.
Great.
So if you've got something real quick, go ahead and say it. But other than that,
It'd be really great, John, if council could put a condition on the funding that goes something like this. Any future design for the library addition will be in 2 phases. Phase 1 will include full handicapped access with repairs to the original structure. Phase 2 will include the balance of the design. It would also be helpful if the council would decide that the money that goes toward the second phase could be paid for entirely with private funding. Yeah, in conclusion, yeah, if Manatee loses that marijuana money, we're really going to be in dire straits. And yeah, paying for that entire library addition the way it is right now is probably not a good idea. Thank you.
Well, Gary, I meant to ask you, you need to give us your full name and your address, please.
Oh, sorry. Gerhard William Skolton, 47 Drake Street, Pueblo, Colorado.
Okay, thank you. See a hand in the audience there, Mr. Dannon?
My name is Rob Dannon. I live at 112 Cave Avenue. I wasn't planning to speak, but I feel I need to at least address what was just said, at least in part, so it isn't left out there hanging. First of all, I know there's 500,000 K that was allotted for the library. And that was a figure that was bantered around from even January. And so I think it's a fair estimate of the consideration, the long-term consideration that council has made in terms of how much they can at this time give to the library project. And I know that the entire capital reserve request that is being brought forth tonight for a second reading is based on the considerations of the possible marijuana ballot in Colorado Springs. So that I understand very clearly, you have taken that under serious consideration and have limited to 500,000. because there had been talk from some council members of doubling that even at one point when you were having discussion. So I think it's a reasonable and it was an expected amount provided. Yes, we were part of a meeting with you, with Ratio today, and they were saying that it could be a 10% cost increase, around $3.7 or so million. That doesn't take into account any possible recessions, which could lower the cost as well. And then handicapped access. If you this was the original thought of some at the beginning, let's just stick in elevators and ramps. No one's going to be able to have access to the interior of the building as it is, let alone people who have handicap accessibility issues. And PPLD, I can't imagine would want to come into a facility such as that. And so we're well past that with much community input to the design that is coming forth with further revisions based on community input that'll be forthcoming starting next month. And the last thing that I have is, as all of you know, as part of the task force, we are committed to helping with fundraising. And we've already reinstituted those efforts recently. And we're moving ahead with previous strategic plans that we have. And so in regard to fundraising, we will be continuing those efforts for foundational grants, other grants, historical grants, and the like, and personal donations. So I just wanted to at least let you know the other side of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have anyone else? And Judy, did we have anyone who contacted you by email or anything to talk about the agenda, this agenda item, the amended budget? If Becca, you're back, thanks. Let me just quickly ask if there's any last call, if anyone wants to make a public comment on, from the audience, make a comment relative to the amended budget. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion. And Becca, you're present again. I imagine you're ready to answer questions. Okay, do we have questions or comments for Becca? Julie?
So I forget, what did we allocate in this amended budget specifically for the library?
For the library, there's 500,000 appropriated, and that's in conjunction with a certificate of participation loan and grants and community fundraising.
That's in conjunction with what kind of loan?
Certificate of participation, we would then use the match funding and PPLD rent to pay for that. I mean,
Oh, to get a loan?
To get a
But
loan.
we haven't approved a loan yet because we don't even know anything about what the terms might be. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So that's down the road.
So just setting aside 500 grand from the general reserves.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Good. Council, other questions? Okay, not hearing any, I'd certainly entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 1822 and ordinance amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2022 on second reading.
Second.
Do we have a second? Second from Julie or? Okay, we'll give credit to Judith for that one. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, are we going to vote electronically, Judy? Okay, go ahead and vote, please.
We have a 6-0 vote in favor.
Okay, thank you. So motion passes. The amended budget is approved.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Becca. I know that's a lot of work, Becca, so thanks. It's an arcane science. Okay, next item is second reading and public hearing for ordinance number 1722, an ordinance of the city of Manatee Springs, Colorado, amending chapter 6.34 of the Manatee Springs Municipal Code concerning restrictions of open fires and open burning to include city-owned properties, parks, and open spaces. And we're joined by Fire Chief John Forsett. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is second reading for amending chapter 6.34, Ordinance 1722 of the fire burn restriction, outdoor burning and restrictions. This specific to limitations on outdoor smoking on city-owned and controlled property, parks, and open spaces. Before you go into discussion, normally I'm really good with grammar and spelling and all those other things, but I think anybody who has owned a newspaper and ran a newspaper is a little bit better, and they were able to catch a couple of reading problems with this. So in the 6.34.050, I said city administer. That needs to be changed to city administrator. And also in that paragraph, it says department heads shall coordination. It should be coordinate. Those are good newspaper corrections. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, sir. And we can only imagine that your firefighting expertise is that much more proficient. So we're pleased to have you as our chief. John, did you, I think we've been over this pretty well. Did you have anything you wanted to call to our attention before we start questions? Okay, council, any questions for the chief? Julie?
So I see that this during certain bans, smoking is only allowed on Manatee Ave or in the public when you're near one of those city provided ashtray things. Do we have those? Denise says yes. Oh, we
Well,
have
I knew that Alex and Denise were working on that. So their placement, I was going to leave her to that question.
So they'll all be installed, because I just didn't know if this should take effect after those are installed.
They are installed.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Council, any further questions or comments for the chief? Okay, there appearing to be none. I would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve on second reading ordinance number 1722. An ordinance.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
we
This is
do.
second
Thank you.
reading. My
Sorry.
bad. Thank you. It's good to have an attorney with a sense of protocol and all. Okay, so. I'm sorry, I'm simply recognizing the obvious. Great, doubly gifted. Okay, so we'll open up the public comment. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this, you're certainly welcome to do so now. There being none, I will close public comment. Okay, we can go back to the motion phase. Judith, I believe was.
Yes, I will move to approve on second reading I move to approve on second reading ordinance number 1722, an ordinance of the city of Manatee Springs, Colorado, amending chapter 6.34 of the Manatee Springs Municipal Code concerning restrictions on open fires and open burning.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Okay, seconded by Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote electronically.
And we have a 6-0 vote in favor.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate the work you've done on this. Great. Okay, next item is consideration of approval of the audited city 2021 financials. And again, we're joined by Becca Davis.
Mayor, may I make a statement
Oh,
before?
yeah, please, Denise.
I want to recognize Becca. This year, as you know, we've done an amended budget, we've done a capital budget, and we've done an enterprise budget along with getting the audit done on time. And she has worked tirelessly to make sure that she hits these deadlines. And I do want to recognize her for that, for it's additional work that she already struggled. I mean, we already try to hit this budget and hit the audit. And the fact that she's been able to do all of that is quite impressive.
Thank you. And Becca, if you'd introduce the gentleman with you.
Sure. First, I just need to say that per state law, local governments must complete and submit a copy of an audit of their financial statements to the state on an annual basis. And the deadline for this is July 31st. So today we have Wade Fisher, who is a manager with Hinkle and Company PC in their Colorado Springs office. And he is going to be presenting the draft of the 2021 audited city financials for approval.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Graham, council members. First and foremost, I'm just going to say the audit is a clean audit. We have no findings. Generally, we have 3 opinions in the audit report, and one's on the financial statements according to general accounting principles in the United States of America, 2 on the government auditing standards, and 3 on your federal awards. In each opinion, you have a clean audit. You don't get any better than that. It's straight A. So that's about all I have to say about that. If you have any questions.
Julie?
I don't know if you can help me with this, but in the budget, does that include money that gets spent from the OSAC funds? And does city council has the right to, or the obligation to approve those funds before they get allocated? Is that correct?
City council approves those funds when they approve the budget. It's part of the budget. So what happens is on a yearly basis, all the different advisory boards make a presentation one night. It's a very impressive night for, I think, all our boards. And they make their presentation about what their plans are for the next year and what their accomplishments have been. And city council usually uses that as the basis for approval of the budget, which includes the expenditures that they have planned for the coming year.
And does city council will also be approving any appropriations or refund or kickback or whatever the right word is to the COG for their money that we give back? Is that going to be approved by council before anything is determined, or is that supposedly staff decision?
It's not exactly a staff decision. It's based upon the contract, which I now include in the budget and is in the budget that was approved tonight. And it's based upon a certain amount in Exhibit A of the contract, which is part of that budget you have, that says this is the amount of money that the city will retain, and anything over that goes back to the COG.
And that's already in the amended budget that we're discussing?
Right. What's in the budget is the amount the city is allowed to retain per the contract.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy?
Hi, yeah, thanks. That's great news that it's a clean audit. Usually, and perhaps I overlooked it, there's a letter in there that states that. Was that stated in the, usually there's like an executive summary with the results.
Well, I have completed the MD&A, the manager's discussion analysis, which is my presentation of the audited financials, but it is not included in this draft. The draft itself has the numbers, and it's not, there's going to be probably some tweaks to it, but it is basically the document that will be filed with the state. And the document that you're actually talking about is it's the independent auditors report, which is page 1. And in it, it does say that it is a clean draft. I mean, a clean audit, I'm sorry. And it's the second paragraph under opinions, where it says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business activities, each major fund, of which open space is one, the discretely presented component unit, which is the Urban Renewal Authority, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city as of December 31st, 2021, and the respective changes in financial position and, where applicable, for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's where it's.
That's where it is? Okay,
That's where it is.
failed to
I
see
think
that.
you're looking for the MD&A because it is riveting.
It's riveting. It's just, yeah, I couldn't put it down. Another question is, and I was looking for the page, and it's page 96 of our big packet, but I'm looking for it on just in here. There was a statement said, the city is not a low risk auditee. And it was, I didn't understand what that meant when it says we're not a low risk auditee, it raises concern. And it had something to do with $750,000.
It's the $750,000 is the, under the uniform guidance, is a threshold that triggers what we call a single audit. And that means if the city is getting any federal grant funds, 750,000 or greater, then we have what we call a single audit according to uniform guidance. High risk or low risk is just a coverage or percentage of that $750,000. So let's say whatever the grand total was, let's say it was, I'll just round it to $3 million in federal expenditures. High risk requires a 40 percentile of coverage, which means 40% of that $3 million would be 1.2 million that we would have to audit. The high risk and low risk is just
So
sometimes.
it's just what you have to audit.
Yes,
It's not that
exactly.
we're a bad risk.
No, exactly right.
Thank you.
Exactly right.
Okay.
That you would have a finding, either a significant deficiency or a material weakness, and that would be in the audit report if it was not a clean audit. And you don't have that, so a clean audit is good news.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, it's a draft. So we're being asked to approve a draft tonight for submission to the state. Is that usual?
In a perfect world, it would, you would have the final, but due to circumstances beyond my control, we are at with the audit, but like, as I stated, this is pretty much substantially what will be in the final document. And if you don't approve this, it would just mean we'd have to go out and get another audit.
And we'd have the risk of having our funds withheld until the audit is submitted, correct?
That is correct.
So as long as we have complete assurance that it's a clean audit, we're safe.
Right.
Okay.
And
thank
I
you.
will, once we get the final, I will send it out to all of City
Okay, thank
Council
you.
and we'll post it on our website.
Thanks, Becca. And I'm, again, you know, from 4 years ago when our audits were often late, and had findings. I mean, this is just so exciting to see it on time and clean. So thank you for all your work.
Yes, thank you. If I, Judith, did you?
Counselor Fortune asked two of my three questions, so thank you very much. One was the draft question, the other one was the 750,000 threshold question. But so on page 104 of 110, where it says section one, it's 104 and 105, summary of auditors' results. Based on that, you know, we can feel pretty confident that we can approve the draft tonight. It's section one is summary of financial statements, federal awards, and I think it goes to financial statement findings and federal awards. And there's just boxes checked, no material weaknesses identified, and no significant deficiencies identified. So is that what you're saying there when with that A rating are on those summarized on those 2 pages?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I think I shared the same disorientation that Councilor Fortune reported earlier. And I guess so when we go from the draft to the final form, what I was looking for is that 3 or 4 page letter from the auditor that typically in the past, I've seen that on an auditor's letterhead with the appropriate signatures at the bottom. So I assume that as this gets cleaned up in final form, that'll be added as well. So.
Right. We had to go ahead and present tonight in order to meet that July 31st deadline that I mentioned in my introduction.
Yes, I understand. I just wanted to be clear. And I can appreciate that it's been a busy year and you've had probably 3 times the amount of auditing to do so far this year. So I appreciate that. Councilors, other questions? If not, I'd entertain it. Denise?
Mayor, I just wanted to also add, and I didn't mention this in my statement, Nicole has also done a lot of work on this and she's in the back area. So it was both Nicole and Becca and they really worked on it together. So I want to give both of them credit. Thank you.
Okay, great. Good point. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you, Becca. Council, sounds like our curiosity has been satisfied. Nancy, do you have a question or a motion? Okay, Nancy? Yes.
I move we approve the 2021 audit as presented and that you will provide us with the letter and the final audit before it goes up to the state. Thank you.
So the motion, do we have a second? Well, we can take a second. If we get a second, then we have further discussion.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. Okay, Julie?
So I'm not sure, do we also have to include in our motion, Jeff, authority to give discretion to Becca to submit this to submit a revised version of this to the state, since we're not able to approve the revised version, to give her that discretion on the record?
Yeah, I assume that was implied in the motion, but you could basically say, provided there's no material substantive changes, something like that. So you don't get a totally different document that doesn't meet the.
And I'll accept that as an
Does
amendment.
that work for the auditor? I want to make sure we were clear. Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so Counselor Fortune accepts that as a condition of the amendment.
I accept that too.
Okay, and it's accepted by the seconder. Julie, did that answer your question sufficiently? Okay, great. Any further questions or discussions? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and vote. Do we want to do this electronically? Yep. Okay. All vote, please.
Okay, and we have a 6-0 vote in favor.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Becca, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you, especially. Thank you, sir. Okay, next item, first reading of ordinance number 1922, an ordinance amending chapters 6.24, 6.27, and 7.10 of the Manatee Springs Municipal Code concerning litter and waste disposal, control, and containment. And we're joined by our planning director, Hannah.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Graham and members of the City Council. Before I kick off my presentation, we do have a couple of wordsmithing edits from our city attorney on the ordinances that were a part of your packet. I do have hard copy versions to pass out to the City Council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll grab one if you have an extra. Got it memorized, but just in case.
Okay, thank you. So in my professional opinion, these edits don't change the content or the context of anything that we've been talking about, just some wording improvements. But I can go ahead and move into our quick presentation if we can move to the next slide. So this is a follow-up to a work session that we had last Tuesday, which was July 12th. We are reviewing two ordinances, an option A and an option B, as well as a progressive fine schedule or amendment to the universal fine schedule as part of the next agenda item. But I thought we would talk about them all at once. Next slide. So option A is the same adjustments to sections 6.24 and section 6.27, according to the City Council comments as we understood them. We did update the violations and penalties section based on conversation that came out of that meeting. It sounded like there was some confusion on which section we needed to refer to first. So you'll see that in the ordinances as well. And it does all reflect the intent of the wildlife section of code. So option A is what we understand the intent to be, which is a wildlife resistant container is only required if that container is stored outside of a wildlife resistant enclosure, garage, or shed, or something like that. Next slide. Option B is the same adjustments to section 6.24 and 6.27, according to those City Council comments. It also updates that same violations and penalties section, but it does expand on the intent of the wildlife or the requirement for the wildlife resistant containers. This one would require that all containers in the city that are placed curbside have to be picked up or have to be in a wildlife resistant container or in a wildlife resistant enclosure as long as trash is picked up from that enclosure. This ordinance also has two different effective dates. So the amendments to section 6.24 and 6.27 are effective just 5 days after adoption, whereas the expansion on the requirement for wildlife resistant containers would be effective 90 days after council adoption. Next slide. And we are proposing an amendment to the universal fine schedule. We are proposing a progressive fine, and that initial first offense would be $250, which is the existing fine for a nuisance. The second offense would be $400, and the third offense would be $700. And depending on the tier or the level of offense that you are, all three of these would be daily. So if you're on your first offense, it's a $250 daily fine until the condition is abated. If you're on your second offense, it's $400 daily until the situation is fixed. And on your third offense, we're looking at $700 a day. And then upon your fourth offense, it's an automatic citation to appear in court. Let's see. We also adjusted the hourly fee up from $25 to $100 an hour if staff has to do any cleanup. And with that, that concludes my presentation, but I did receive a couple of comments from members of the City Council, and I can respond to those right now, or we can wait till later on, whichever you prefer.
If council has no objections, I think if you'd like to address those now, and that may reduce the follow-on questions.
That's fair. Thank you. So a couple of questions from you, Mayor Graham, that came in first. So you called out one of my typos in the staff report, so I apologize for that. But it sounded like there was some confusion on whether a cardboard box would be an acceptable container, and that's because I forgot a word in that sentence. The memo should read that cardboard is required to be in a container, not that it's allowed to be a container, according to our code. So no, you could not use a giant cardboard box and that be an acceptable container for waste. The second question was if we are expanding the definition of an attractant, are we really making it more difficult for residents to recycle their waste? So that could be possible. The intent is that those items couldn't be stored for pickup in a container that isn't wildlife resistant. So it would require that recyclables are now needing to be in a wildlife resistant container. And so that's purely because cardboard, which was used to store food items like a pizza box, would now need to be in a wildlife proof container, whereas right now there isn't that distinction made. So that may trigger the requirement for recycle cans that are wildlife resistant as well. The third question was if we should establish a time frame for these penalties to reset. I think that is a fair comment to make. And if the City Council is interested in doing that, essentially what we could do is, let's say that you have a first occurrence and we issue daily fines until that issue is mitigated, and then you have a clean record for a certain period of months. Does that progressive schedule reset? The parking section of code uses 12 months as a threshold. And so we could use that same time period. If you have a clean record for 12 months, then you wouldn't automatically be progressed to the second level of $400 daily. You would start back at your first offense. Right now, it kind of reads that no matter how much time has gone by in between first and second offense, you would be starting at whatever level or however many times you've been cited previously. So we could definitely add that in. That would be an amendment to the fine schedule that you're looking at now. And so we could bring this item back in conjunction with the second reading of this code change with those edits made in the fine schedule. We also did receive a few questions from Councilor Fortune. Thank you. So one of the questions was if anything that we are looking at would interfere with anything in the GFL contract. I reviewed that contract, and right now, option A would not interfere with anything in the GFL contract. They would still be able to service just like they are today. Option B does outline the potential for increasing the number of wildlife resistant containers, and GFL does have the ability to provide those containers. It would be a $2 extra fee. So it's not that that would happen outside of what the contract would allow for, but it would be a cost incurred on residents that is not expressly outlined in that, or what's going on now, I guess. The second question was if there are any wildlife resistant containers left up at Public Works, and there are no usable wildlife containers left at Public Works right now. So all the ones that we did have that are not broken, and there's only like 2 broken, those have been distributed to the public. Another question was, is 9 p.m. too late to be left out on trash day, and is 7 a.m. too early? I don't have a particular opinion on this, but I'm happy to adjust the language if City Council had a particular opinion. We briefly talked about maybe we could look at dawn to dusk timeframe instead of specific times, or maybe we move it up and back an hour. I'd be happy to make those changes if the City Council were supportive of that. Let's see. Then there was a question about how much wildlife resistant containers cost. Generally speaking, a wildlife resistant container runs anywhere between $280 and about $500. And a wildlife resistant enclosure can run anywhere between $800 and about $1,500. And that would be the standard steel, bear proof, things that you see in parks and stuff like that. There was another question raised if Best Way had charged residents with wildlife resistant containers an additional tip fee. And if GFL also does that. I asked around and it doesn't seem like that was anything that was official. So I don't know if that was a couple of employees that were trying to get a little bit extra on the side, but there was nothing in a contract that specifically said that there would be an extra fee applied for wildlife resistant containers, other than the additional $2 per month that would be on the top of their contract. If you rent it, that's correct. Yes. And those are the questions that I received, but I'm happy to answer any others.
Okay, council, other questions? Nancy?
Just for clarification, is because Best Way would not provide a wildlife resistant container unless the person paid for it. Is GFL the same, or is GFL providing wildlife resistant containers instead of the regular trash containers?
Thank you, Councilor Fortune, for that question. My understanding right now is that they have the ability to provide those containers. And my understanding of the contract is that there would only be a $2 additional fee on top of their normal monthly cost. But again, I would have to confirm that with GFL, and I can do so.
And just to clarify for the rest of the council, Best Way at the time would not deduct the cost of a regular container from the wildlife resistant containers if someone wanted that. So the person had to pay the entire amount. I don't know what GFL is doing, but that was a huge expense, which is why we went after the funding to acquire wildlife resistant containers. That had a lot to do, the cost had a lot to do with how that ordinance was written several years ago.
Thank you. Julie?
So if we were to pass Plan B, where everyone was required to pay $2 a month extra if they don't already have their own wildlife container, is there enough for the entire city? I mean, did you ask them if they have 750 of them, or I have no idea how many the businesses would need, but did you look into their volume of what they can get?
Thank you for that question, Councilor Wolf. I did not have the opportunity to ask them what their stock or their available stock is for these wildlife resistant containers, but that is definitely a question I can follow up on.
Okay, and then also, is it already in our fine schedule to define a separate offense from an ongoing initial offense? Because that sounded potentially nebulous, but is that already in our code?
Sorry, your code has a general provision that says every day that an offense continues is a a separate offense. So I think that when I think this through, you could look at it like the first day could be one offense, second day could be another offense. I just thought about it when I said that, honestly. So I think you could clarify in the fine schedule that single offense is a continuing offense. That'll be your first offense, no matter how many days it progresses, and it's subject to that first daily fine every day. You wouldn't be looking at like $400 for the first day, $700 for the second day, or whatever that is. So I guess I need to read the fee schedule, see how it reads to clarify that. So
Yeah, because it seems like we just have to see how it's written, because if a day, the first thing, when you were talking, Jeff, at first, I thought you were saying that the code specifies that each additional 24-hour period constitutes a new offense. And if that's the case, then obviously that means, the price goes up day 2, and by day 4, it's at $700, which is a
Right,
little
right,
radical.
yeah, the minute I said that is when I started saying it, is when I realized that could be
Yeah.
the case, frankly. So
Well, that's a concern. I guess my other question is there a distinction in here between trash, or whatever the word is used, litter or something strange, and recycled products? Because technically, you're not supposed to recycle a pizza box if there's all this, cheese stuck to it, because they don't want to recycle stuff with food. But on the other hand, I just to clarify in the code, I wasn't sure where in here we could determine that recyclables can be just in a if it's just empty bottles and things like that, it could be in a non-bear-proof container. How do we understand that?
Yes, so thank you for that question. In section 6.24, there's a list of definitions. And so we're talking about the larger code, not the changes that I'm proposing to make. But there is a definition of litter that includes recyclables in it.
Oh, so recyclables is litter.
Yes, requiring to be in a container for
So
those
we'd have
general
to get
provisions.
bear-proof green. Well, I don't know if they have to be green, but I don't know if GFL will recognize which one is the recyclable if it's not green. So what are we supposed to do? Does that mean you put your recyclables in if we go with Plan A or Plan B, you have to put your recyclables also in a does GFL have bear-proof recycle containers, or just bear-proof trash containers?
So my understanding of how this code would be implemented is you have multiple sections that are talking to each other. I think we know that. But in the section 6.24, where it has that definition of litter to include recyclables, we also look at section 7.10, which says that our waste that has attractants in it has to be in a wildlife resistant container. So if your recycled material doesn't have what's defined as an attractant, then it doesn't have to be in a wildlife resistant container.
So that's not a problem because of how litter is defined?
That's my understanding, yes.
Other
And then
questions?
does GFL work until 9 PM? I didn't think they picked up that late. Do you know? I thought you put 9 PM under the assumption that they're still picking up trash that late. Is that the way it is?
I don't know if that's occurring in practice. I believe 9 PM comes out of the code update for the wildlife resistant containers in general. And so I think the intent out of that timeline was to be relatively flexible enough with homeowners who are getting home from work and who are reasonably able to bring those containers back in.
I see.
Not necessarily tied to when GFL is making the rounds.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Natalie?
My question was mostly answered. I just wanted to add that if it is appropriate at any point to include language around composting, because again, we do not have a formal system for pickup, and it does sound like your definition includes an attractant, but just that may be something we may want to include, but we could certainly wait until it exists too.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments, council? Okay. Michelle?
Thank you. I just want to clarify. So if either of these ordinances get passed option A or option B. The residents have 90 days from the date that it's passed to get wildlife resistant containers for both their trash and their recycling.
Thank you, Councilor Weatherholt. So the 90-day effective date would only apply to option B.
Okay.
Since option A doesn't expand anything beyond what is currently required, I felt that it would be reasonable to have a 5-day effective date.
Okay, thank you.
Julie?
So under option A or under both of them, I guess, I'm a little perplexed by the requirement that the trash cans cannot be visible from the street. So what does that mean for our businesses, particularly in the arcade? Like, I know that some of the businesses put their dumpster in Soda Springs Park, which I don't really appreciate. But a dumpster, so all the dumpsters are supposed to be hidden from view from the street. Where do they go? I mean, is it practical? Where does everyone put their dumpster so you can't see it from the street?
Thank you, Councilor Wolf. So that's a great question on whether we should be amending the existing code. So this isn't, with this change, I'm proposing that we clarify some of the things that I find unenforceable, like requiring it to be 25 feet back unless it's impractical, when impractical means different things to different people. But inconspicuous to the view of the passerby is also relatively subjective. And so if we needed to adjust.
Oh, really? Why is it subjective? Is it because some people have bad eyesight? I mean, if you can see it from the road, you can see it from the road.
Right. So it doesn't necessarily say that you are spying it from the road. Maybe that's a point of clarification that we could make, just that it's inconspicuous to the view of the passerby, regardless of where they're coming from. So they may be coming from a second-story structure and walking down and they can see it. So we can clarify exactly the point of view that we're requiring it to be inconspicuous from.
Well, let's just say that we made it simpler, just for hypothetical discussion. And we said it has to be inconspicuous from the road.
Mhm.
Not that you can see it out your window looking downhill. Still, how is this, well, maybe you're not the one to answer. I don't need to put you on the spot, but I mean, what are the businesses supposed to do? Or the apartments? I mean, apartments have a little more flexibility because they usually come with parking lots, and then you can, put some kind of enclosure around the dumpster so it looks like some kind of a metal frame thingy instead of a dumpster.
Lover's Lane. Lover's Lane.
Yeah, I mean, or even the arcade. I mean, we have, or the dumpsters that are in Soda Springs Park. I don't like them there, but where are they supposed to go where they're inconspicuous? You can't put them in the back room of your shop. So I just want to know if this is doable.
Great question, but I would say that if there's a proper screen, that would make them inconspicuous.
A screen, or like a wooden enclosure or something
Yeah,
that is a little more
just so that
attractive.
it's- Yeah, something more attractive. Bushes, that they're behind.
Well, you can't put bushes in the middle of,
Well, no, but I'm just
the
saying
arcade.
as a possibility, a screen, some sort of a screen to make them not just ugly trash containers out there. And businesses do that.
and does the 90-day grace period, does that apply to everyone getting their screens built?
We can make that amendment for a second reading that
But it's
we
not
give.
in here now.
That's not in there now with option A. All the code requirements in option A would be effective 5 days after. But we can give a greater grace period to come into compliance.
Just to be clear, if I'm not mistaken, I think that requirement for them to be inconspicuous is already in your current code. That's not a change that's being made tonight. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Oh, we already have a law that says you can't, your trash has to be inconspicuous?
Yeah, that's nothing new.
Well, that's
so-
funny. I don't think we've ever enforced that one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to, I'm trying to be clear that this was supposed to be dealing with inconsistencies, I believe, primarily, but can certainly make other changes as well. But I don't think Hannah here made that change on her own. So it was just always in your code since 2010.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Parker. Yeah, it's always intriguing when we get into these situations. We start thinking of all the other things that we forgot. So that's why we do it in a couple stages. Well, actually, I would like to. I'd like to make a comment, and then I do feel that between options A and B, I think option A is, I think, more acceptable overall to the majority of Manatee residents. I live in a neighborhood where we've had trash problems because of wildlife for many years. I think we've kind of worked it out. What has been the biggest thing to help is just to find more responsible neighbors, and that's hard to do with an ordinance. But yeah, I know in my neighborhood, a lot of us have structures. We have enclosures, or else people put things in their garage, and that seems to work. I think requiring that they have the bear-proof containers all the time is going to be a financial hardship on some people, and it's I don't think it really buys us all that much. So that'd be my take. Other counselors, or would entertain a motion?
Can I ask another question? Sorry. I'm asking
Okay,
so much.
go ahead, Julie, and then
So
we'll come
if
back
we,
to Nancy.
if for a mere $2 a month, we can get our residents to use the bear-proof containers, do we need the 90-day delay? I was proposing 90 days last meeting because I was under the impression we would all have to buy our own. That's what I had to do when Best Way was our provider, and this law got passed. But if all you have to do is tell GFL that you're ready to swap out your container for their bear-proof one for an extra $2 a month, I don't know that we necessarily need to postpone it by 90 days. That's just an observation.
Okay, thank you. Nancy?
I was ready to make a motion, but addressing Julie's concern is I'm not optimistic that the contract, I think that that's a $2 tip fee, actually. But I'm open, if that's the case, that would be wonderful. But the other thing that concerns me about B is that it would entail changes to our contract, which at this point, I would prefer not to do a contract change and perhaps revisit when it's time for a new contract, because I know my ward has expressed a great deal of frustration with the existing contract, and I don't want to put any more frustration on them. So unless there's more discussion, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead for the motion.
Okay, let me get to it. I move that we approve ordinance number 1922 and ordinance amending chapters 6.24, 6.27, and 7.10 of the Manatee Springs Municipal Code concerning litter and waste disposal, control, and containment, option A, on first reading. And additionally, I would and we didn't discuss this, but I would recommend changing the hours from 5 to 9 to 6 to 8. And I say that just again I think most people don't leave for work before 6 in the morning, and most people are home by 8 at night. So I thought 5 to 9 was a little excessive. And even though I helped put that in place initially, and that we have a reset, appropriate language for the reset of the first, second, and third offenses. I think, was there any other changes?
Yes. Would you also consider the 90-day grace period, if you will, or the section that will not be implemented for 90 days has to do with the requirement to keep all trash containers in an inconspicuous location, or
I don't, again, because that's been in place for years. I would suggest that that's not necessary. People already should be having that.
oh wow, so we'll be giving out lots of fines as soon as this passes to everybody in
That
the
is
arcade.
a potential, but I would also ask that, or suggest that council allow code enforcement their usual appropriate discretion for the first 90 days.
I don't agree with that. I just think that creates a sense of favoritism. There's already this sense, how come some businesses get picked on and some don't? I would rather be consistent across the board in terms of when this would get enforced. If you want it to be enforced right away, then I guess maybe some kind of public outreach informing the businesses that this is coming down in about 2 weeks.
Okay, Natalie.
This was before Hannah was hired, but we spent quite a bit of time talking about it with the code update and walking the businesses, particularly in the URA. And we haven't kind of revisited that. And so I believe that something will be coming forward specifically addressing this when we do the code update.
Okay, then, even though it's been in the code forever, I would say I think 90 days is excessive. The businesses have been knowing this is something we discussed last week, and we're very frustrated and we wanted immediate enforcement. So, but if the inconspicuous thing, even though they've known about it forever, I say 30 days, I think is adequate.
Excuse me, Nancy, I think you were calling, your motion was for option A, which doesn't include the 90-day requirement.
I understand that. I'm adding it.
Okay.
30 days, yeah. To enforce that particular section. Jeff, would that work?
Yeah, no, we can do that. I just want to be clear. So your motion was to change the hours from 5 to 9 to 6 to 8. And then the reset for daily violations, we should address in the fee schedule, which is your next item, to be clear how that works. And then you'd make it effective. I guess you'd make the entire ordinance effective in 30 days, or you want just part of it to be effective?
I would prefer not to wait for the entire ordinance. I don't.
But just the inconspicuous part for 30 days.
Will not be.
Okay, well, so that's already in your code. So
not the 30 days though,
well, I mean, if it's not effective, it's going to be what it is right now, which is still there.
But doesn't this supplant what's still there?
Not until 30 days, if you make it 30 days from now.
Can we say, rather than changing the ordinance itself, we just add an education and intense education component to the community?
I'm fine with implementing the law immediately. I think we should go ahead and fine everybody.
Okay, so I'll repeat my motion then. Let me go back. As stated, to approve ordinance 1922, 6.24, 6.27, and control and containment option A on first reading, with changing the hours from 6 to 8. And I think that then that would be and additionally, implementing a very intense educational component on the, whatever that language was. Non-conspicuousness. Oh, well, in general, just for the entire thing. And you had mentioned that last month that you would do an intense education component, and certainly the Pikes Peak Bulletin picked up on that and did quite a article on it last week. So does that, Julie, is that all right? Because I would prefer not to wait.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, council? Denise?
Mayor, may I make just a comment? The 6 to 8, if somebody needs to go to Denver, they work in Denver, something like that, they may not be able to make that. I know we've had a couple of people that have to put it out earlier than that. And the 8 p.m. that could, so I just want to share you guys' decision, but I do know that can impact people that drive to Denver or to the north part or a long ways, or they need to go in early for the day.
Yeah, and I would just say that, neighbors often will help neighbors out in that regard. I mean, where do you cut the line? So, or where do you draw the line? Sorry, but I do worry 5 to 8 in bear season especially is pretty long hours. And I'd also just like to share with council that when the ordinance was implemented in 2017 for the wildlife resistant containers, we saw, our code enforcement saw a substantial decrease in problems. So I think it was an ordinance that was well worth doing.
Michelle?
I'm having a problem with the inconspicuous, primarily with the apartments on Canyon, and all the garbage the dumpsters back there and bear-proof containers. And they will now need to be inconspicuous because they sit on Lover's Lane. And then I was like thinking of a safety factor. So if I dump out my trash in the middle of the night, I'm going to go into a gated fence. What if someone is hiding in there? That's just my concern because I've seen it before. It hasn't happened to me personally, but Lover's Lane is not lit. So that's just my concern. And then I think about Manatee Factor and their dumpsters that would have to be contained. So I'm just having a hard time with the inconspicuous part.
Can I comment on that?
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
I think at least the dumpster containers that I'm thinking of and that I've built or had built, I didn't personally do it, they go completely tight around. They're only enough, they're only the size of the dumpster, or in my case, the trash cans that are inside it. It's not like a room you can hang out in like maybe you'd have at a business. It's just a container all around with the top. And then you have to lift the top. The hassle is you have to lift the top up in order to then open your trash cans, but it's not like a room you'd go into. It's just just an enclosure that goes right around the trash cans. You know what I mean? That way it's not a safety factor.
I'm not picturing that very well because according to this,
Well, you just kind of build a shed right around it, and there's only a half an inch in between the outside of your shed and the inside of the shed, and your cans fit right in it. There wouldn't be room for a person to stand in there with the cans.
so all the larger dumpsters would have a little wall around
Right.
them. Okay, thank you.
I mean, that's how I envision the code to be talking about the containers so that they're not. So what will be conspicuous is the surrounding container, which may not be necessarily more attractive than a dumpster, but hopefully.
Thank you. Any further comments from council? Discussion. Natalie?
I'm just going to say that I also have concerns about the enclosure conversation, but I am willing to pass this on first reading with the understanding that we can make adjustments at the second reading.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and just for everyone's benefit, I hope I get this right. The motion, check on me, Nancy, is for option A. You want to change the times from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then to include an educational component for the public. Is that restated accurately? Okay. There's no further discussion. Let's vote.
6-0 in favor.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully we provided sufficient direction for the as we move towards second reading. Thank you. Council, we've been at this for an hour and a half. Why don't we take a 15-minute break? No objections? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started again then. Okay, so see, the next item is resolution number 1722, a resolution adopting an updated universal fee schedule. And we have Nicole from Finance here to walk us through this.
Good evening, City Council. So after our previous discussion regarding the fees, I think that we do need to make some changes from what I've presented here on the fee schedule with the changes. What I had interpreted was that it was going to be $250 for first offense. And now we hear that it's going to be first offense daily in a 12-month period. So I would like to present this with those changes in mind if it is approved.
Okay, so that's the proposal before us. I'm sorry, actually, let's see, I said page 18. Maybe if we wanted to, I'll get it up in front of us. So we
I
can take
still
a look
find
at
that
it.
verbiage confusing. I don't know if, Jeff, do you have a suggestion of how we phrase that? Correct. So it's the first offense. Right. So with the first offense, it will be that original amount continuously. And then a second offense, which is a different offense on a different day, would then go up to the next amount.
That's right. Jeff, can you speak into the microphone a little more, please?
Sorry, I keep on forgetting to press the button. So I've been trying to craft like a succinct sentence to address this, like maybe an asterisk you would put there in your fee schedule. I'm going to just give it a crack here. It may not be perfect, but so section 1.16.102.012 of your code is that separate offense provision. It says each day an offense continues shall be deemed a new and separate offense. What I want to do is accept this from that, but have each day be a separate offense, but have the actual amount apply based on. So like, for example, if it's a 3-day offense that continues for 3 days, it'd be $250 every day for 3 days, right? And so I guess, let me try this here. So maybe a start, it says section 1.16012 shall not cause a trash violation to be subject to a higher tier offense amount if the violation continues uninterrupted for longer than a single day. And then, I mean, we got more to it, and it says provided that each separate day the violation continues shall be subject to a separate penalty in the same tier amount. Something like that.
Do we have that in our packet? I
No.
don't have any of that. I just have this
No.
fees and fines chart.
No, we don't. And if my recollection is correct, in the draft of the ordinance, I don't think that was included. So we
Well,
sort of added that on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just by operation of your municipal code. Municipal code has that provision that says each day an offense continues to be a separate offense. So any kind of offense you have that, like a nuisance offense that continues for more than 1 day, every day is a new offense, right? And so when you look at like a fine schedule that basically has tiered rates for each separate offense, you want to be clear that, well, does that mean that the second day of the same offense is now 400? Or should it just be 250 every time if it's a continuous offense until it's corrected? And then, like if you do the same thing a month later, now it's your second offense. So I guess that was the point of me suggesting an asterisk on your fine schedule to address that issue.
Well, see.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I took it to mean, since we are going now to a tiered fine schedule, that to me, the only reason to go to a tiered system like this is every offense is different. So if you get a $250 fine and X amount of days to clear it up. And then if I don't know, 72 hours. And then if that 72 hours, you have not taken care of it, then it goes up to the next second offense. That was my understanding. So I need some clarity here. Because otherwise, if we're just going to do 250, why are we doing a tiered system at all? So yeah, so I
Well, I mean, this is no different than any other offense you might have in your code. For example, if you had some other violation, typically if it's, you don't clean up your yard for a week. I mean, you could be paying you could be charged with 7 separate violations of the code. It doesn't typically happen. You typically, it's one violation, it's addressed by the municipal court and you're done. I guess we may be overthinking this, frankly, because I guess I don't see a court, if you have your garbage out for 3 days, they could say it's, $750 fine for 3 days, 250 times 3. I guess I just want to be clear in your fine schedule, whether you want every separate offense to be, or do you want to just not have section 1.160201 to apply at all to this? And you just consider one offense shall be one continuous offense until it's abated, I guess. But they could leave it out for like a month that way then. Maybe paying one fine.
I like the $250 a day thing. That's $1,750 a week. If we actually started enforcing our code, I think that would work. I don't think we necessarily have to make it more expensive than $1,750 a week. It's just that the problem is that it's unlikely that our code enforcement person would go out every day and check. But if our code currently provides that each 24-hour period constitutes a separate offense, then $250 a day, I don't necessarily need to complicate it with this progressive thing. If paying that much money doesn't encourage the violator to solve the problem, then we can always just revoke their business license. So we have other options if for some reason the $250 a day isn't enough to entice them to fix the problem. That's just my opinion.
But I agree with you, it's an enforcement issue. So regardless of whether we're, charging $250 or $400 or $700, it's got to be enforced. Then why are we doing this? So I agree with you though.
So if you changed it, it would be like most of your provisions where, if you have one offense 1 week and one a month later, and it lasts for a day, it's just $250. It lasts for 2 days and it's $500 potential, et cetera.
And then when would they go to court? When, if ever?
Yeah.
Because that was the
Well,
final in the.
Yeah, you can, I mean, the way it's written right now is you can always cite somebody to court if you need to. So this could be something that you could put like as a penalty assessment, or you could have them just come to court if there's nothing here about going to court at all. So you can send them into court whenever you want.
In other words, Jeff, a court isn't mandatory. It's just you get a fine, you pay the fine. You go to court, I suppose, if you think the fine was imposed unlawfully or you think you have a defense, but
If you want to
otherwise you just
contest
pay
it, right? Yeah, and so there's some violations have a mandatory court appearance. And so you basically come to court and the judge would deal with you there. Others, you can do what's called a penalty assessment, like a traffic ticket. You can just pay it. And if you don't pay it, then you can come to court and contest it if you want to. And if for some reason, you've had too many violations or you haven't cleaned up one for a week, the code enforcement officer can just issue a summons and citation and you can just come straight to court.
Yeah.
This is all kind of interesting. I mean, and again, I think that it comes back largely to how aggressively have we been enforcing things, and maybe that's a telling part of all this. I kind of like the progressive structure. Yeah, I think really making the enforcement though is really what we need to do. And I guess the other twist on this, Jeff, would be, I think we do this with our traffic tickets. If they've, if it's their first offense in a 12-month period, they pay one rate and then it begins to escalate. And if they haven't had any offenses within a year, then they go back and reset it to where they start out at the lowest rate again if there's a subsequent offense.
Yeah, and that's a little easier because it's not usually a continuing violation. It just happens one time. Boom, it's easy. You can track it. The only issue with this is just making sure the only issue I pointed out was, do you want to make this every day be a new higher amount? Or do you want to just have the same amount apply for a continuous offense? And when there's a new continuous offense, it's the same amount every day.
Thank you,
Well,
Judith.
but what you're saying, John, is different than what
It-
Jeff
it-
just said, right? Because Jeff was saying, you were saying about waiting a year.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the parking, and with some of the parking fines we have is that, you have the progressive rate, so they offend, they pay, they offend a second time, they pay more and so on. But if there are no offenses in a 12-month period, I believe we reset it, so.
Is that the kind of progressive that you're thinking of for here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's what, when looking at page 18, the way it's structured, their first, second, third offense, that's the way I'm thinking that would be implemented. But I don't see, the stipulation that something to the effect of within a 12-month period, first offense within a 12-month period, something like that. Judith,
So I'm very goal oriented, and what is our goal? And our goal is to rectify a health and safety and unsightly trash issue. And so to me, what I loved about the discussion last time, that we were going to impose a $100 hourly cleanup fee. So to me, that kind of is the progressive issue, because if you go to a business, for example, and you say, it's July 19th and here's your first offense, and you have 72 hours or whatever, because typically we give someone a time frame. And then if that doesn't happen, then in addition to the $250, we're going to charge you $100 an hour because we're going to clean it up. And then after we have to come clean it up, then after that, it is your second offense. And that can be progressive or not. But I'm just saying we have to decide how that hourly cleanup fee, because the goal is to get rid of the trash. And if we're just giving people, $250 fines and they're willing to pay it, then we're not taking care of the problem. So to me, that $100 an hour cleanup fee should be part of how we work rectifying this problem. So that's what I would propose, is that we fine them for a first offense, and we say, you've got 48 hours, and day 3 we're coming, and it's $100.
Our law already says 24 hours. You want to make it, you want to give them more?
Well, I would be okay with 24 hours, but I also, I know that I have a neighbor who in particularly likes to put things in his driveway. And I know that code enforcement has been out trying to work with him, and have given him a period of time to rectify the problem before they come back. And so I'm open to that discussion, but I think that it has to be tied to this. If you don't take care of this, this is a serious health and safety issue, and we will impose the $100 an hour. And if it takes us 5 hours, then you get also a bill for $500. For us to clean it up. So I'm okay with 24 hours.
Okay.
And then we clean it up for them and we bill them.
okay. Thank you, Judith. Nancy?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councilor Chandler, because we all had a different impression and definition of what this meant. So I think simplifying it makes a great deal of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're looking at not that many people, it's like a few businesses or whatever have been really taking advantage of it over the year, and so the goal of solving that is what is important. What are we really trying to fix? And that's what we're trying to fix.
Yeah.
So I think that what Councilor Chandler has proposed is a good way forward.
Okay. Natalie?
I just want to differentiate between someone leaving furniture in their driveway and someone leaving food waste in the driveway, because again, those are two different. I think we're trying to prevent a number of things, but one of them being that a bear would, problem versus annoying furniture. So I wouldn't mind giving more time for furniture versus attractants. So just specifying that.
So 24 hours, is that?
I mean, I honestly, I feel like that's too long, but I don't know if that's possible.
Well, I think we're getting, it's going to get really complicated if we start trying to do this. I think that the way these are usually handled with violations is you'll have a penalty for a violation. You'll have a hourly cleanup fee if necessary. And then your daily provision in your code says every day is a new offense. And code enforcement can come out and say, this is a violation, clean it up in 24 hours and I won't issue you a ticket. And we won't have to charge you $100. Or they could say, here's your first ticket, clean it up. Or we're going to charge you $100 to clean it up, and it'd be a new ticket tomorrow and a new one the next day. I mean, that's kind of how you enforce a lot of these violations, is they don't just write a ticket every time, and they try and inform the owner, and if they're ignoring you, you can get tougher. If they're not, you can issue a ticket every day. I think if you just have an actual amount for a violation, knowing that every day you're going to get charged for it if the city wants to, it's quite a bit of money. And you can still charge the hourly cleanup fee if it's necessary. They can give a warning if necessary. They can give a deadline of 10 hours or 1 hour if it's appropriate.
Okay. Well, I sense there's some sentiment here for the way that Councilor Chandler had stated it. And I think, Jeff, you've articulated the same general sentiment. Does that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to do, or we could try and clarify what is a first offense and what is a second offense, what is a third offense, and have the tiered schedule too. That's also fine. We just have to make sure we get the language right.
Okay. Well, maybe in the interest of time, we know how Councilors Chandler and Fortune feel. I'll start down here. Julie, are you on board with that, or do you have a different take?
No, I'm on board.
Okay. Natalie?
That's fine.
Okay. And I'd be good with that. Michelle?
Before we adopt the fee schedule, I just have a quick question about the parking lot permit fees. Because I see $30 a month.
That doesn't have anything to do with the present discussion.
Okay. Okay, I'll bring it up then. Thank you.
We can, Michelle, if you want to talk about it, we can schedule to talk about it another time, but right now we want to focus on trash. Okay. So, okay. Michelle, you're okay with that? Okay, so I think the general sentiment is basically what Judith described and Mr. Parker kind of stated.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, so if I'm accurately reflecting what we're going to do, I think sounds like we're going to get rid of the second and third offense provisions in here and just leave the $250 first offense. And maybe we want to say in a 12-month period. Is that what we were considering? So we know what. I guess it doesn't matter. It's first one offense.
It's not tiered anymore.
Jeff, there's no point in saying first offense.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh,
It's just-
okay.
Yeah, it's 250.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 250
Sorry.
plus the $100 hourly cleanup
Yep,
fee
that's exactly right. Yep.
Okay, I mean, I guess you could say 250 per offense
per offense
per 24 hours if you want to.
for 24 hours.
I don't think you need to do that because that's covered by your code provision already.
So
Okay.
250
250.
per offense
Okay.
plus the $100 hourly cleanup.
Yep.
Okay, so if we're all looking at page 18 out of 26, there's 4 lines there with red numbers in them. We'd be just basically striking those bottom 3 lines as I understand it. And I'm sorry, the middle 2, I'm sorry.
Mayor.
I need to put my glasses on, sorry. And then the top one, instead of first offense, it would be something like per offense. Or is that kind of what we're gravitating to? Okay.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yeah, please,
So
Denise.
I just want to, so you're saying 250 per day or just 250 per offense?
It's
So
per
that
offense,
could-
but per day. It's already per day in the code. So when you say per offense, that means the same thing as per day.
So 250 every day plus, because what can happen is, I just want to talk this through, is you can get 250 one day and then 250 the next day, and then we clean it up, which is cheaper than having them come and get somebody to do it. And we have to go clean it up and put it in our dumpsters, which costs us money. And most things we can clean up within 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm not sure that will encourage them to clean it up themselves, but I'll make us clean it up on weekends and those type of things. So I just want to talk that through to make sure we're all on the same page.
So you think $100 an hour per employee for cleanup will cause us to lose money if we do that?
It
Yeah,
could
or
be
another
cheaper
way-
for them if they have numerous dumpsters or whatever it may be, or lots of things. It may be cheaper for them to have us just clean it up than for them to call somebody.
Okay, well,
to
that's
get
a
it
good
done.
point, because I
That's a
don't want
good
it to be, I don't want it to be cheaper for us to clean it up. So should we charge 200 per hour per employee? We need to make it so that it's less expensive for them to fix the problem themselves. If you think 100 an hour isn't really going to cut it, should we double that? I'd be fine with that. I just want to know. I haven't broken down what it costs us per hour per employee when you add in all the benefits and everything, plus the dumpster cost of the dumpster itself and having to remove it. Maybe they even have to drive all the way to the dump, depending on the volume. So what would you recommend above 100 so that it's not cheaper for them?
Could I just say that
Yeah,
it's not
Nancy.
per employee? It does, currently it does not say per employee.
Oh,
just
it should
says
be per employee, not
an
per.
hourly cleanup.
Oh,
fee.
my gosh.
And
Well,
they would have $250 fine plus $100.
it should be 100 per
And-
employee.
Perhaps there should be a
hour.
minimum fee, right? For example, like there should be a minimum fee up to a maximum, because you make a really good point, is that if you're going to take people out and our equipment out, and you're going to take them out of the task force, that other jobs they would be doing to clean this up and then haul it off. If I was a business owner, I'd go, yeah, that's a great deal. I'll just have you come pick it up and that'll be less expensive. So we need to make it uncomfortable enough financially for them to want to take care of the problem quickly themselves. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe a minimum fee to a maximum fee.
So Denise, $500?
Per hour?
No, it would be $250 for the first offense. And then for staff to clean up, it's a $500 flat fee.
Well, that's scary,
So-
because what if it costs us $2,000 to clean it up and we have to lose $1,500 just because we decided to make a flat fee? That's what worries me about.
But, another
Flat
thing,
fees.
another thing here is like, if it's a nuisance and you can basically recover the city's costs for cleaning up nuisances, whatever the cost is. So maybe we just do, or cost to city, whichever is higher or something.
Because, I'm sorry, I'm just
No.
jumping in.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Because fees are supposed to represent what it actually costs the city, as my understanding of what fees are. It should be an accurate representation of the cost to the city. Now, that still may, and so the cost of the city is more than just picking it up. It is taking them out of their regular job. It is dumpster fees. There's a number of things. So to me, so we don't really know if that $100 is accurate or not.
If you read right above this, right, it shows that the nuisance is 250 plus $25 per hour. So if we claim it as a nuisance, that's why we've added the trash fee, because of what the nuisance was before. What if we tried this? Here's a suggestion is, and I would defer to you, 250 the first day, 400 the second day, and 750 the third day. Those prices get pretty high, and I do think that they would probably take pretty quick action. So it's not per occurrence, but and then the fourth day, they get immediately cited to court and we clean up and charge accordingly. So that is something to consider as you look at that. That would be a if they go for 3 days, they're $1,100, $1,350 basically in fees, which is a pretty high fee for anybody at that point. And it would be cheaper to call somebody then.
And those would just be fees. That's not including the cleanup fee on top of that.
Right,
which would
that's
be
if we went 3 days and they didn't clean up and we went and cleaned up, that would be a pretty steep fee in 3 days. I think anybody would take pretty quick action at that point.
So we're back to talking about $250 per first day, 1 day, first day 2, 400, day 3, 700, day 4. You're cited and you go to court, and we charge you.
And do you stop paying daily then with your proposal? After day 4, it's free?
Oh, after day 4, we cite them immediately to go to court. So we would do
Oh,
a
so they go to
citing for
court in a month, but do they get a fine on the 5th day and the 6th day and the 7th day?
We would clean up.
Well, it should just be third or more offenses. So it'd be 700 just every day after
So-
that, yeah.
And then Denise, don't you think the 25 an hour is too low to cover your expenses for per employee per hour?
That's for the nuisance, so we'd have to bring that back for a different one, but yeah, I think that is pretty low. I
I'm
do
sure
agree
we
with you.
spend
I
more
think
than
that
that.
should at least be $50 for
And this-
nuisance.
And but Jeff was just saying this could be brought under the nuisance act, and so it is relevant for us to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the whole fee schedule, so you can address it if you want to.
I think it should be 100 per employee per hour minimum, unless Denise thinks that's too low, but 25 seems like we're definitely going
that's
to be
like
losing
free.
money on that deal.
Okay, well, we need to kind of focus on something. It sounds like we've got several different ideas that any one of which
I
might
support
work.
what Jeff just said about it's, first offense, second offense, third offense. And there's, and per day, and then third offense is on that ongoing until they go to court. And plus the cleanup fee. Is that what I heard you say that, Jeff, is that at the third offense, that's a daily?
So I guess here's the thought. We could do, you could do the first one above it, chapter 6.08 nuisances. You could do 250 plus 100 an hour per employee if you want, and that would apply to this because it's a nuisance.
Okay.
Then you could do first, second offense, 250, 400, and then additional offenses, 700. And then maybe I put a little asterisk there and saying each day an offense continues shall be considered a separate offense pursuant to section 116.020. That way it's clear.
And do you also, Jeff, have to specify that the 750 will continue for subsequent dates?
Yeah, what I basically call the 700, I just say additional offenses. And then I have a note saying every day that offense continues shall be deemed a new offense. So there wouldn't be a third, it'd just be like first, second, and then additional offense.
Okay.
So it stays at 700 then?
If that's what you want to keep it at, it's totally up to you.
Okay. Does that seem clear? I'm seeing heads nod. Okay, so it sounds like, Jeff, to restate here for the under
Okay.
neighborhood services top line to be
250.
250 plus $100 per hour per employee. Okay, next line, it would still be 250 first offense, 400 second offense, 700 additional offenses, all additional offenses. And then what?
Get rid of the $100 hourly cleanup fee because it's covered in 6.08.
Okay,
And then I put an asterisk by the trash violation citation and just say, let me get it right here. Where I put it. I'm gonna get the language right. Let me just grab this provision of the code. It's right here. I don't want to get it wrong. Just once, there we go. Pursuant to section 1.16.012, a separate and distinct offense shall be deemed to have been committed for each day in which a violation continues.
okay. Council, does that seem to make sense to you? Nancy?
So if a week later, after it's all been cleaned up, then they reoffend, do they start the cycle, the same cycle again at 250 and so on?
No, well, no, I think that would be an additional offense. Maybe that's the next point. Maybe we want to also put an asterisk, like clarifying that this is in a 12-month period. If you wanted to make it reset every year or not, because it would be, you could just be, you've had your fifth offense in 3 years. I don't
Don't say that. Well,
no, I don't want anybody to be confused what they're voting on. I mean, right now, we have first, second, and then additional offenses, right? We don't clarify in what time period at all. It's not in your fee schedule.
okay. I guess since we we just did the first reading on the trash ordinance, and this is really driven by the trash ordinance. If we were to kick the can down the road, and I normally don't like doing that, if we waited 2 weeks when we come back and do the second reading, then had this cleaned up, I think we know, we have a pretty good idea what we want. We could go ahead and revisit this in 2 weeks when we, and I don't see that we need it for 2 weeks. Okay, there's sentiment to get it done. Okay.
So
I guess I'll make,
if it requires a motion, I think I'm ready to take a stab at it.
okay, shoot.
So what I understand we're doing tonight is chapter 6.08 nuisances. First offense is $250 plus $100 per hour per city employee to clean up as needed. The second offense, second day, is $400. Subsequent offenses are $700. And we're not going to put any time frame on that. That's what my understanding was from what Jeff, you read. So
That's your motion,
so that is my motion.
and I will second.
Nobody said no.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, council? Julie?
Yeah, I'm not. What was the answer to Denise's question? Did you include what happened? Does it become a first offense again next week, or does it become a first offense again next year? I
It
didn't
would
hear that
become a
part.
subsequent offense at 700.
For the rest of your life?
Yes.
It's like 10 years later, you have an offense, it's 750.
Well, after the third offense, they're going to be cited and go to court.
So what, let's say 2 years later, you have a problem. Is it 750 or is it 250?
Good point.
So
So
that's the part of your motion I think that's missing.
I mean,
I'm happy to entertain a friendly amendment of in a 12-month period.
And I would second that.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second.
And do we need to
Any
reread
further
that
discussion?
motion? Everybody's clear on what the motion on the floor is, right? Okay.
Do anybody want it restated? Well, no, I know what I'm voting for. I just want to make sure everybody else knows what I'm voting for. Yeah. Okay, let me restate it. And if anybody disagrees, we'll have to start over.
Okay.
Okay, so Judith, watch closely.
I will. I'm
Okay, so
watching.
top line under neighborhood services, the
Right.
chapter 6.08 nuisances. That would say 250 plus $100 per hour per city employee. The next line would still say 250 first offense. Next line, 400 second offense. Next line, 700 all subsequent offenses. And then I guess I would propose an asterisk for all three of those offense values and say within a 12-month period. And then the bottom line where it says $100 an hour cleanup fee, that would be removed. That's my understanding. Did I get that right, Judith?
That is correct.
Okay, is everybody on board? Is that clear? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye or vote green.
6-0 in favor.
Okay, thanks. All right, we got there. Democracy is not a quick process. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Okay. All right, so now we're at time to receive or act on council correspondence. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Nicole. Okay. Council correspondence. Michelle had her hand up first, I think. Michelle, Judith, and then we'll do Nancy.
Just a couple things. The hoverboards going down Manatee Avenue, there's concern. They don't have any lights on. They could easily be taken out by a car leaving Subway, and all of a sudden there's a hoverboard coming towards them. Second concern is pedestrians in a crosswalk and people are not stopping. Drivers are not stopping. They are stopping when we're at peak times, say 12 o'clock noon, but they're not stopping, say at 8 a.m. And then the other concern was on the fee schedule. I don't remember talking about the parking lots as far as $30 a month. That included Wichita, Shmishni, and Canyon. And so when I was looking at the fee schedule, I saw that change, and then I saw.
Okay, and Michelle, can you find that spot on the fee schedule again? So you'd have that we could have that for reference.
It is right underneath where the garbage. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. What page was that one?
It was on 19.
Okay, so it's right below that. Under residential, oh, I'm sorry, parking lot permit fees, I see $30 a month. I don't remember us ever changing it from 20 to 30. And then I see Prospect at 10, Shmishni at 15, Wichita at 30. And my understanding is that parking pass of $20 a month covers all three parking. And so I just remember, I can't remember what date we talked about this, but when we talked about progressive parking, we were talking about progressive parking and we were not talking about the parking lots. So I'm just very concerned because I pay for parking and I paid $20 a month and I paid for $240 December 31st or December 30th. And so now I see $30 a month and I've been on council since January 4th. And I just don't remember seeing that or talking about it. And I don't see how the three lots have three different fees or fees.
Denise, it would seem maybe if you could ask Kevin if maybe there's some historical background on that, he could perhaps, maybe that'd be the first thing to do is to see what there's a rationale behind it.
Yes, because I just know that those lots are in my ward and I was going to be talking to the various residents about this, knowing that there was the potential of the fees going up in 2023. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like, so thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Judith?
I just had one quick question. I had a couple residents ask me, where did the police e-bikes go? And so I have been putting that on my radar and I have walked into town now 14 times in the last 2 weeks from my house to Tubby's turnaround and I haven't seen them, I don't think since the Christmas parade. So I was wondering if they were mothballed and if so, what was the reason for that? So could you address that maybe?
Do you want to research that, Denise, or do you have a response now?
I have some of a response, but I will research and get the rest of it. I know they're going through some additional training. That's the last I heard. And so I will get you more detail. And I know they've been used a couple of times, but you're right, they haven't been used a lot. So I will find out from Bill and let you know.
The residents really
Love
like them.
Yeah.
And so I, and really, we're saying positive things. So I would love to see them out and about on those bikes. Thanks.
I'll get that information to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
Thank you. I met with Marcy Morrison on Sunday. She had some concerns, particularly about the turn off onto Crystal Hills Boulevard from down by the old Comfort Inn. There's a lot, it's horribly overgrown. There's and it may be on CDOT property, but just all along that hill there looks really bad and there's a lot of stuff down. I also went to the URA meeting this week and a couple of things that came out of it was that concerns with how they'll get the tax. Apparently third-party entities who remit to the city as a lump sum from the state, the sales tax. So it's very difficult for them to do the incentive agreements with like the Holiday Inn Express. So I know finance is working on that, but I thought that was an interesting thing that apparently was unclear when they started this. So also the East Archway sign they're looking at the possibility of putting a message on the back of it. So when you're exiting town, they'll be like, thank you for visiting or something, which will be a nice little thing to do. And that's about all. They're talked about a bunch of stuff, but those were the couple of interesting things I found interesting. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Natalie?
I just wanted to congratulate Becca Sickbert on her work getting us nominated for the 5th Best Small Town Art Scene, and congratulate Alex on all his work getting us press around the peanut pusher.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Well, the first thing is, my neighbor wanted me to mention Warren Epstein, who lives at 50 Grand Avenue, is making a movie in his backyard Thursday and Friday night between 6 and 10 p.m. He's directing his first movie, and he's looking for people who want to be in the movie because part of the movie is like a party with food and drinking, and there's going to be food and drinking, and he wanted me to invite anyone to please, if they want to be in the movie, please show up. I went to the pool and noticed that the landscaping there really could use some attention. There's just weeds and grass, and it looks like a lot of the stuff hasn't been cut back in a few years. It looks so sad. Just walking from the parking lot to the front door. And then minor little thing, but I wanted to buy a gift certificate for a friend to the pool, and I learned there's no such thing. And I had to spend quite a bit of time on the phone explaining that, no, I don't want the person to come in with me. It's supposed to be a birthday present. And I wanted to put, so they don't have any gift certificates there. I think that might be a nice idea if we could implement something like that. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Let's see, and last week was PPACG and PPRTA meetings. And at PPACG, Brian Vituli, he's been in here, he works for Mountain Metro Transit. He also is a Manatee Springs resident. And he announced rather proudly that Mountain Metro is going to be acquiring 2 electric buses, battery operated buses, that they will be using for the Route 3 from downtown Colorado Springs into Manitou. They're going to add that to the existing fleet. And so what that'll do is it'll double the service that comes to Manitou or on that route. It would also serve Manitou back to Colorado Springs. So we'll have, my understanding is 2 diesel buses and now 2 all-electric buses that will be providing that service. Mountain Metro had looked, a year ago, they were talking about doing this. They were going to use a different route to test the buses, but I think they feel comfortable that they would be serviceable on this route and that the community welcomed it. So I know in talking to some of the constituents in the past, they've asked me about electric buses and trying to reduce diesel fumes. So I think that it's a shout out. And Roy Cheney was also instrumental in that. So I was a little bit surprised when Brian announced that. I thought it was a little early, but it's just happening faster than we had hoped for. So that's great. That's all. One other thing, and I'm sorry, we talked last week about originally August 21st doing a day-long budget retreat. And then I'd suggest that we may break it into a couple days. And then we were looking at doing August the 23rd and the 30th. And I forgot that I have a commitment for that week. I realized it was going to be a 5th Tuesday week. So if council could see your way, maybe to go back to having the day-long session on the 21st or breaking it up some other way, I'd appreciate that. So if there's any feedback on that.
21st of what?
21st of August. And of course, that's now you're going to have your surgery too. So that's a hardship on you. But
I don't know, maybe I'll be okay by then.
yeah, actually, you might be.
It'll be 7 days.
7. Oh, you'll be okay.
I might still be on drugs.
Just painkillers, yeah.
I also have one other thing I forgot to
Oh,
mention.
okay, yeah.
But do you want to get feedback on that?
Well, yeah,
first?
if we could, yeah.
I wanted to mention that last time it came up about Shannon Solomon having supposedly, the rumor I heard, supposedly not been in favor of the OSAC funds being used for purchase of serpentine. And I spoke with Shannon personally, and he clarified that there was an executive session. He went ahead and told me what happened in it. And I thought, well, I don't know if we're supposed to do that. But the bottom line was, he explained that no, they did vote in favor of contributing toward the serpentine purchase. And he didn't provide any details about whether OSAC agreed to pay 80% or what their recommendation was, but I suppose that's something that will come before us eventually anyway, to have to make the final decision. But I wanted to clarify that Shannon did not object to the OSAC funds being used for serpentine, at least to some of them. And I don't know the details about percentage or anything.
Okay, thank you. And if I could, yeah, Judith.
Well, so you mentioned, I have two quick things. One was your request. I'm fine meeting on a weekend. I'm very flexible. My concern is for staff. I just want to, so I don't know how we solve that problem, but I very conscientious that staff probably wants their weekend time, and I don't know if there's any other solution. But again, I personally am extremely flexible most of the time. So, I could certainly do a weekend, but I want to be mindful of that. And I didn't want to let the one thing that Michelle said go. Last weekend, I had to spend 5 hours in the URA replanting my planter because it won't drain. So we had to dig the whole thing up and haul the dirt away and replant it. And while I was down there, that individual, that male that I see on the sidewalk was riding his hoverboard back and forth down the URA, and I was scared for him. The traffic was bumper to bumper, and he was all over the place. So I do want to corroborate and support that we do need to take a look at that. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Yeah, and to follow up, that was mentioned last week, and Denise and I actually talked about it today in front of the agenda meeting. So we will get that on an agenda here pretty soon. One of the things is Bill Otto has been on vacation. I personally feel like it would be a good idea to get his take on it. He and I have talked about this a little bit, and it's a vexing problem because those guys just move around so fast. Enforcement is a little bit of a challenge. Denise?
Yeah, I spoke with the police department today, and they're gonna do for the next couple of days, do some extra patrols to try to find them and take action. So I don't know if you need it on the agenda. They said they don't need anything from council right now. They need the extra patrol, and that's what they're gonna do to try to get this resolved. However, if you want to put it on the agenda, we definitely can. But I think let's see if we can see if the extra patrol will help with that.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay. Okay, relative then to the, like a day-long work session for an agenda meeting.
Could we push it out a week?
I'm thinking, looks like maybe pushing it to September. Would that? We could take a look at that. I would have to look at see what other agenda items we have. And
If you want
it's
me to be there, I don't think it's very reliable for me to think I'll be okay a week later. I'm not sure, but I'd be more comfortable if it could be scheduled.
okay. Well, Denise and I'll take a closer look at it then and try to get some additional feedback from you. When next week we don't really have anything, so we will not have a meeting next week. If we were to have a meeting, it would be a work session, but I think we're sort of between having things ready and ready to review. Okay, well, that was all I had. So let's go to the city administrator's report. Yeah, no meeting next week. You get the night off.
Just a couple of quick things. Maps, they're supposed to finish polling all the polls, and hopefully we'll get that done in the next week or so. That's if everything goes well. So let's hope that that happens. You mentioned about the electric buses, so thank you for doing that. And I also want to do a shout out to Bill Otto for the UC Health MOU, and you guys got it in. If you would like for that to come to council and announce it, but we'll probably be doing a press release when Bill gets back. That's a very big, and Bill worked on that for a good 5 to 6 months, and he was instrumental at getting that secured. So I'd like to shout out to him for all of the hard work. That is a big, big project and a win for the city. So we'll be doing that. What I have that I need to work on, so just from the aspect, I'll look into the parking, Michelle, and see what that is and let you know so that, so we'll get that done. And what else did I have down? I will also look at the flood control master plan that Dave Wolverton brought up and see where we are with that. I've already sent an email, so I'll try to get that done as quickly as possible. And the police e-bikes, I'll let you know on that. I've already sent an email on that. I also had, and I'll check about the landscaping and the gift certificates. So I'll reach out to you individually on those two things. I also had a complaint about some U-turns again at Emerald's Field. So we'll work on that and sent that to the police. So that is what I have. Is there anything else that I've missed? Okay.
I don't think so. Actually, there was one thing that I missed, and Dave Overton earlier said that I had not responded to his email. I responded to that email. He responded to the email that I sent him. I responded to that one. Now, I didn't give him an answer that he wanted, so he may not feel like that constituted a response, but that was the best I had for the amount of research I did.
Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt. Sorry about that. We did. I also gave that vacation rental that was brought up earlier tonight and asked Hannah to reach out to them individually to discuss his concerns, and she'll take it back to the code update. And Natalie is the liaison. So Natalie, if you can also put that down as a discussion, I think that would be great, because I don't always attend those anymore, that I'm not the acting planning director with a smile. So yeah, I apologize, Mayor, for interrupting.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So we're both contrite. Okay, so next item is executive session. This is an executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop a strategy for negotiations, and instruct negotiators pursuant to section 5.1D of the Manatee Springs City of Manatee Springs Home Rule Charter concerning the Colorado Springs Utilities Electric Franchise Agreement. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's just vote by voice. All in favor, say aye. Aye, okay, motion passes. Okay, so we need a few minutes to change over. And how much time do we need, Denise?
Judy, is 5 minutes, 10 minutes max? Can we?
I think 5 minutes looks like it'll work.
5. Okay, we have him already on Zoom. So if we can take a quick 5-minute break, that would be great.
Let's meet back in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.